folks. Click the links for alternative platforms. Support channel, would you join the Gab or Discord? Okay, so all this stuff, all this tinfoil hat, all these conspiracy theories. Oh, you guys are so wacky with your Alex Joneses. Oh, it's not all conspiracy theories. It turns out that some of these things are actually happening. All this Fahrenheit 451, Brave New World, Animal Farm, 1984, Lord of the Flies. It's the Venn diagram where they're all overlapping, and where are you? You're right smack dab in the center. It's all happening. All this stuff is actually happening. See, some of these websites are kind of hippy-dippy websites, but they're reporting things that are actually happening. You can check the source from the World Economic Forum. They're posting their videos on Twitter and on YouTube, where they get, of course, downvoted, and some they actually pull down, but they're telling you what they're going to do to you, and then they're proceeding to do it. So all these, I keep saying on all my videos, oh, you're dog whistling with the Soros, the Rothschilds, and the Schwabs. Well, this is by Schwab, who I believe is related to Rothschilds. And the other guy, Soros, is, he's the guy behind funding BLM and a lot of these other, what's his group, the Open Foundation. It's this group for open borders who helps multiculturalize the West, which isn't so great, because you get a lot of people who are coming from an area that they're leaving because it's bad. Unfortunately, wherever you go, you take yourself with you. So it actually is Soros, Rothschilds, Schwabs who are behind this. You can look it up for yourself. It's not all conspiracy theories. Anyway, so they posted a video. Take a look at this dystopian nightmare future World Economic Forum about the advantages and opportunities of the Wu flu, which, take a step back, you go, so is this just serendipitous? Did this just happen and you're taking advantage of an opportunity that fell into your lap, or did you kind of make the opportunity happen? There's some weird things going on with that funding of that laboratory. There's a lot of people involved in it who maybe didn't quite make sense why they were involved in it. The thing is, these people aren't going out of their way to hide it. They're posting photos on news releases from years ago about that lab and everyone who was involved in it. I don't know if I can say too many hot words on YouTube, but the guys who were involved in it were also involved in a lot of shady stuff. And it's like, they're not trying to hide this. They're pretty well open of it, because when you control the media and you got billions of dollars and you can reach out and squash problems, you can reach out and touch anyone around the world. Like Bill Gates said, he said, well, Epstein, he caused some problems. He had some information. He's dead now. You've got to be careful. The reporter interviewing him, I think it was Judy Radcliffe or Woodcliffe or something. She's giving that interview. It's like, did this motherfucker just threaten to murder me in front of 50 million people? Sort of. He's threatening anyone who would have interests adverse to his. And he's saying, yeah, he's got the power to, if he's got the power to do Epstein. I'm reading a lot into this. I'm making that sentence do a lot of work. But you realize, this isn't just some guy off the street who's threatening you. This is Bill Gates, connected to Epstein, who's got connected to the Clintons and connected to a lot of very powerful, wealthy people. Anyway, so they posted a video, said, what is the Great Reset? Basically acknowledges using the pandemic to bring about a new world order. Wow. So Pat Buchanan in the 90s, and everyone was talking about that in the 90s, and it was just far right conspiracy theories. Except it's all happening. It took 20 years, or 30 years. So lockdowns are quietly improving cities across the world. If you don't form militias now, man, there'll be no time to form them later. People who are kind of whistling past the graveyard, these guys who say, oh, when they come for our liberty devices, we'll show them what's what. So, you've got a family of, I don't know, 4 people, whatever. So you're the man with your liberty device. You're going to take on it. Then when they come to take your devices, they're going to come in numbers. They're just going to go door to door and take them, and most people are not going to do anything about it. The only way you can resist tyranny is with a militia. You can form militias now. It's still legal, but it won't be legal for long. They're absolutely going to take that right away. You can only stop a gang of tyrants with a militia. And if your militia is big enough, get in focus, if your militia is big enough, there needs to be, no one ever needs to pick up a liberty device. It's just an unspoken show of force. They know not to go there because, like, oh, there's like 10,000 people in this militia who are willing to do whatever it takes to maintain liberty and destroy tyranny. That's the power of the militia. Not one person sitting on his porch with a 12 bore. They're just going to smoke bomb you. They're going to smoke bomb you and burn the house down. And you burn enough houses down, and it'll teach a lesson to others. It's like, you're not going to form militias in the week before this event happens when you need them. Form a militia and get in group, working together and figuring out a hierarchy. That takes time. Like, what do you think basic training takes? 2 months. All this stuff takes time. Like, no, you're not going to form a military readiness of being actual professional soldiers. But you at least got to get to know each other and, learn some things about each other and figure out a structure and what are your rules of engagement? How are you going to behave to prevent tyranny? What are you going to do in some events? And then you have to practice those things. It might be nothing more than getting together and going jogging together out in the woods with, backpacks and water bottles. I don't mean like some full display of regalia, because you always have to be cognizant of optics. Like, just people, sunglasses and hats out jogging in the woods together. No liberty devices on display, because the media will take that and run with it. You just need to do it now, because, like, what's the minimum time to readiness? Time. It takes time. Whatever time it takes, it's like it takes time. You don't just do that spur of the moment. Anyway, so they posted some insane videos, and some videos they delete. But they're telling you what they're doing to you because they're psychologically trying to warm you up, soften you up to slip in these ideas. So they posted a video, this is how our lives would soon look, where people are treated like cattle, wearing masks. Like I said, masks are great because it slows down facial recognition technology. But, I was saying the other day, it's like, the optics, the cameras are so good. Like I was thinking, they could bounce lasers off your skin to determine temperature rate, respiration, pulse rate through veins close to the surface. You can determine a lot by bouncing a laser off somebody, and then you can use cameras and computers to pick up how people walk. So even somebody masked up is going to be identified pretty easily. But again, the mask helps because it using all that other tech takes time. It's like not every city has access to CSI level type of stuff. So they want to make abundantly clear they don't want you or your children to leave the house. The thing is, the time to resist this is absolutely right now. Call these people out, these Soroses, these Rothschilds, and Schwabs. Point out what's going on. Who are these people who are behind this stuff? And resist it. There's no, this is way past time. People are like, we're just satiated on the bread and circuses, and we're willing to just sit back and hope somebody else steps up. And it's like, no, it's you, Mr. 50-year-old who just had his first grandkid. It's you. Like, unless you want your children and grandchildren to have to step up, it's like, it's you. And if anything, at 50, you've already got grandkids. Well, you're a little bit more expendable than your grandchildren are. So hard to just throwing that truth out there too. So they want to redesign neighborhoods. They don't want you to leave the house to get food. They want you to wear a mask even in your own house. Analytical-driven services implies big tech companies will analyze your web searches and consumer habits to predict what you want and have it all sent to you. How about we start passing laws that say, well, the internet is protected under the First Amendment, and our politicians don't do any of this kind of stuff, where we start bringing rights back to the people. If you decide to go crazy, it will be basically, they want ideas within a spectrum where you can have all the debate you want on allowed topics. It's like the controlled opposition of Ben Shapiro types, Dan Crenshaw types, Charlie Kirk types. They will allow fierce debate as long as it's in a controlled setting. But then you start talking about, hey, maybe we need to stop funding Israel. They'll lose their freaking minds and shut it down. So that's why they're called controlled ops, because not everything is on the table. And you look at them and you go, these controlled ops guys, The Republicans who just voted for red flag laws and draft women in the military, that might actually be good because it kind of accelerates things. They're more dangerous than the open enemy with the D after their name. That's why they're controlled oppositions. They're trying to keep you on a path away from your goals. They're trying to keep you placated. And like, for the love of God, finally people on Twitter, some of these MAGA normies are starting to wake up and go, oh my gosh, these Republicans really aren't our friends after all. Yeah, people were telling us years, decades ago, it's the wings of the same bird. And a lot of times it used to be the left wing, or at least the libertarian liberal, saying that it was the wings of the same bird who were saying that kind of stuff. I remember, like, back in my day, it would have been like Vietnam vets who were conservative on some issues, but were liberal on other issues. But like what they were was not trusting of the government. They were very much not trusting of the government. And as a kid, I had it like took a little to wrap my head around these Vietnam vet guys who were, I guess you'd call them white nationalists or militia members now, that kind of guy, because how vehemently they hated the government. But the thing is, the media would also have you believe that they hated brown people, and they didn't. They very much didn't, because a lot of these white nationalists were black and Asian and Mexican. I mean, most of them were white, but the thing is, they weren't white nationalists. They were, geez, how many times can I say that and F myself for YouTube? They just didn't trust the government as well. You shouldn't trust the government. So the media, it's like all of a sudden, the media takes off the mask and it goes, oh, the media is the government. Or at least they're working so well, so tightly in lockstep that they are agents of the state. So it's like this, it's military-industrial complex. That was popular in the 90s. No, it's a media government complex. They all serve the same masters, the Soros, the Rothschilds, the Schwabs. It's all this cabal of ultra-wealthy people. And like, yeah, you're noticing some coincidence in that name. There's an overrepresentation of those people, but it's not all those people. And that's a mistake a lot of people think. Like, they think, oh, Trump is our guy, he's the blue-collar billionaire. No, at that level of wealth, it doesn't matter if it's like Paris Hilton, who's actually Paris Hilton's sister married a Rothschild. My point is, at that level of wealth, they're not your guys anymore, because they're not nationalists. They don't belong to a nation. The nation they belong to is the bankers' nations. So they marry into the bankers' tribe. They're not, like, Trump is not your guy. He's not going to risk everything he has, all this money he has in his family's future, to go to bat to try to save America. That is, well, the thing is, 2016 to 2020, to save America wasn't ready to be saved. When on I don't know if I can put any of this on YouTube. When J6 happened, and Trump didn't pardon those guys, but he pardoned rappers and drug dealers, finally the MAGA normies start to wake up. And J6, he knows that was an unarmed, peaceful assembly. Boomers walked through the Capitol unarmed, no rifles slung on their back. Some of them were smoking joints. And it's like, it was an incredibly stupid thing to do, but again, the police let them in. It's like, you saw how the media turned on them. And you saw, like, the guys in Rage Against the Machine and all these other left-wing people suddenly are working hand-in-hand with the FBI to track down these protesters. Like, if you told me in the 90s, 30 years ago, that Rage Against the Machine would be working with the FBI to track down people who hated the government, I would not have known how to handle that. And you look at these people in the eye, it's like, is there any soul to you whatsoever? No, they don't have any. A lot of the left who are doing that, it's like they have such a hate boner for Trump because CNN told them to hate Trump. And you're like, in the 90s, you were saying the media was the enemy of the people. And now all of a sudden, because the media is saying what you want, you suddenly believe the media? Like, listen, once you impeach a source, they're impeached to their veracity. If they're not trustworthy, when they're saying one thing, it doesn't matter if they say something that pleases you, they're still not trustworthy. Where's that going with this? Anyway, so they want to have complete control over your life. The thing is, this isn't as black-pilled as it seems, because the alt tech is, there's a lot of people on Gab and Telegram, which are kind of the two mainstays of alt tech. And there's a bunch of other little microsites out there, like Post. It's poa.st. There's like microsites like that. Those aren't as useful. Even Discords and like private chat rooms are fun, but The thing is, I prefer to have my conversations publicly on Gab. I don't like to have private conversations because I'm trying to express these ideas to as many people as possible. And it's like, to have private conversations defeats the point. Like, there's only 24 hours in a day, and if you're spending an hour in a private chat room talking about these ideas, it's like, well, just don't Fed post, go on Gab and talk about those ideas publicly so everyone can see them and slowly come around to your way of thinking. Yeah. So they can detect you using a laser. Yeah, you can bounce. I mean, you can bounce a laser. This was done back in like the 80s or 90s. Bounce a laser from a satellite onto the ocean and measure the seafloor mapping through the tiny differences in gravity that affects, because the mass attracts mass and all this kind of thing. You can measure. By measuring the height of the ocean level, you can measure subsurface features. And in some cases, I guess if it's shallow enough, you might even be able to bounce the laser through some of the... Am I out of time? Ah, shit, I am out of time. All right.